I figured I'd do a lawsuit update video. Because apparently, I don't know, people are saying things like, the Joneser and the other guy are saying somehow the case got dismissed or something, or didn't get filed, or whatever they're saying. So, I mean, they did cash my check, the court. Okay, I got a little receipt here. Can't read it probably, too much light. Yeah, well, you see there's little numbers on there and stuff. Yeah, so they cashed my check. And we have a docket number. It should even be on here. It's H08-2105. So yeah, now it's got 120 days to do the summonsing thing, and yeah, the court didn't send me back my complaint. Usually they're supposed to send them back stamped, just so it has the official stamp on it. So I guess with my summonses, I guess I'll have to just I'll provide you a copy of the receipt or something, just for the hell of it. They're supposed to also send some packet, of court, Texas court rules specific to that jurisdiction. And, that's what they say on their website, of course. But anyway, so they didn't send no packet. They just sent one piece of paper, with a few things outlined. I have 16 days or something where I have to basically point out if there's any other defendants. I sort of already did that in my complaint, but yeah, I mean, there's a whole... It's going to take more than 16 days, obviously, to get to the root of who the defendants really are. So anyway, but yeah, things are processing. So I don't know where you got the information that the case is not a case. I mean, maybe you got information. I mean, the courts aren't very communicative, but I never heard of a case getting thrown out 6 days after they cash your check, without any papers being filed by even the judge saying, even if a judge thinks a case is bullshit. I don't even think a judge has seen this case yet, but even if he did see it, and even if he did read it, and even if he did think it was garbage, he's sort of obliged to send a letter saying, well, gee, unless you can rephrase your complaint, I'm going to throw this in the garbage. They at least have to give a warning that that's their plan. So anyway, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a little crazy. So anyway, I guess, so now the rest of this video is going to get into some arcane legal crap, so really, don't waste your time unless you're interested in this legal shit. Because the masked analyst brought up a case where a defendant was awarded legal fees in a case that they didn't win, technically. Okay, I mean, they won it in the sense that they were not guilty, sort of, in the case, and then the appeals court, I guess Seventh Circuit, I'm not sure who, but anyway, this judge, I don't know why it was one judge. It's supposed to be a panel in the appeals court, but anyway, it was a really dumb decision on so many levels. It was crazy. I mean, the first one would be the judge basically, the appeals court has basically found that the case was frivolous, and then they were to do that after first the case survived a summary judgment motion in the lower court. Then so the judge basically said there's enough of a case to go to trial, and so he let the case go to trial. And the only way that could possibly happen, would be for the judge to not have seen it. The standards basically, if a reasonable person could see a cause of action, then you're supposed to let there be the cause of action, let the trial take place. So the one judge is basically saying the other judge is unreasonable. I mean, he's not capable of reasoning, so he shouldn't be a judge anymore if he's an unreasonable judge. So it was kind of stupid to overturn that decision. I mean, he was more informed, the original judge, on the details of the case, and it was more, I mean, it's just so thin an argument this judge used to overturn that other judge. And the whole idea, anyway, of giving damages, awarding legal fees, this is the danger of such a circumstance like this. Let's say a big giant Paramount, some big movie company, steals a script you wrote, and you take them to court because you want what's yours. You wrote the script, and they basically stole the idea. At least you believe that's what took place, and so you do your legal thing. You go through the process. You don't have a lawyer, so you do it pro se, let's say. So your expenses are the minimum, and because you're just trying to get what's due you. And so the other side hires, the best attorneys, biggest money, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend their right against you, a pro se plaintiff, arguing your case. And so you lose the case just because you're outnumbered legally. They can you know, manipulate the arguments and the case law to make it. And so, but you know, the basic truth is that they did steal your idea, but they didn't steal enough of it, or they didn't steal it the right way for you to win your case. What this decision basically says is that a judge can now say you, as the person trying to defend your rights, your property, could be obligated to pay $400,000 in legal fees. I mean, that's basically what this judge is authorizes, that you go to court trying to defend yourself against what you think has been a crime perpetrated against you. And in that circumstance, you have the burden of proof. You have to prove the person guilty. You're a prosecutor when you go to court. In my circumstance, I have all the obligations. I have to prove these people did something wrong. All they have to do to defend themselves is to say, prove it. Prove it. That's all they have to say if they're innocent. I mean, an innocent man doesn't have to spend 10 cents in court because all they have to do is obligate the other side to prove their case. But anyway, so you not only have that burden of proving somebody guilty, but now you have this threat that somehow if you don't do it, if you don't accomplish your task, that some idiot judge could say, okay, you're obligated to pay everything they paid to defend themselves, even though they didn't have to pay it. You know, obviously if you're buying expensive lawyers, maybe you think you're guilty. Maybe you're protecting against something like the other guy can prove you guilty, even though you're not guilty. I mean, it's really a high, you know, it's kind of a preposterous argument. It's a high burden proving somebody guilty. And so if your adversary is paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fee, and you're going to be vulnerable to that bill, who's going to ever file a lawsuit? They're going to be intimidated right out of court. I mean, there's no possibility that anybody's ever going to defend themselves. This is as bad. This is worse, even on some levels. I'm not going to say it's emotionally worse or in real damages worse, but this is like, you know, just persecuting a rape victim by sitting there and analyzing every relationship they've ever had in their life and saying because they had an affair with a married man or something 10 years ago, that somehow that has something to do with why they were raped, you know, or some other bogus argument. I mean, what woman's going to go defend herself against a crime of violence if the threat is going to be hanging out there that every aspect of her personal life is now going to be put under a microscope? I mean, that's so unfair, and this is just as stupid. As you're just intimidating people out of their right to defend themselves in court. So it was really a dumb decision by this judge. I don't know whether it's going to become precedent. I don't know if any other judge is ever going to do this again, because as far as I know, it's the first instance I've ever heard of where somebody was awarded damages that on a case that was in hindsight or retrospect found to be frivolous by an appeals court. I mean, that's just, I never heard of an appeals court that's found a case frivolous, you know, because the trial court judge is always going to, you know, judges love to do that. If they have a chance to say something frivolous, they're going to do it. So it's just a really bizarre and unusual circumstance. So I don't think it has any impact on me. Because I'm going to, at minimum, require the court to allow me to take a polygraph test or something to prove that my case wasn't frivolous by any rational standard of that, any rational definition of that word, which is supposed to be an intent to abuse the system, an intent to cheat. And that was the weird thing about the case, is it seemed legitimate that in the case that he described, you don't have much time, you know, some employees left the business, and they left the business taking some of the business's property to create a new business in direct competition with the business they went from. And so even though the property they stole wasn't essentially very proprietary, it didn't, you know, wasn't in terribly critical trade secrets or anything, it was still a theft of their intellectual capital, or whatever, their business capital. And it was just bullshit. You know, I mean, those guys were wrong to do that. That was a wrong thing to do. You don't start a new business with somebody else's material. I mean, that's bullshit. And so, like, even though the copyright claim didn't stand up because they couldn't prove a monetary damage and all the rest of this stuff, it was still a valid claim to be making. You know, for the one business to kind of resent its old employees starting up a new business with, you know, a piece of their material. So I mean, it was just, it's a bullshit case to be on appeal anyway, and certainly for legal fees, it's just a silly decision, just silly.